It's story time. Today I'm going to tell you about a personal story from my time being an amateur ghost hunter. It all started when a friend of mine found out that I was ghost hunting. He wanted to go on an adventure with me. So me and him and our wives went out to a place I had been kind of looking at for a while. It's an old cemetery in the middle of Oklahoma. The cemetery is known to be an old Native American resting place. So we loaded up the car and I loaded up my gear. We drove out to the cemetery, which was on the old back roads of an old Oklahoma town. I'm talking dirt road, unkempt, full of holes and overwash. It was an arduous path to get there, but we finally came upon the old cemetery. We parked our car and we got out to start the investigation. I'll have you know there are two parts to the cemetery. It is still being used to this day, despite being out of the way and on the old back roads. These two parts of the graveyard are not divided from each other in the traditional sense. No gates, no fences, nothing to mark each one. But you can tell them apart because they go from being monitored laminated stone to old monoliths made of old style stones marked in the Cherokee language. Some of these old Cherokee stones are even written on old flat creek rocks, and some so old they don't have any markings at all. The person buried no longer able to be identified. It's a dark night when we went out. Nothing but a cloudy sky, moon barely peeking through. We walked down into the old cemetery. The first thing I say is we need to be respectful, because old Cherokee tales say if you're not, then there will be spirits that will get revenge on you. As we ventured into the grave, I turned on my spirit box. It was pretty uneventful at first, but then one of the words that came out of the box, well, it drew my attention. It said my name. Now, usually I would write this off as happenstance, but then it happened again. It said my name, this time followed by a low, guttural growl. At this point, I'm not ashamed to say I was getting nervous, for every time we went deeper into the graveyard, it would say something in the Cherokee language. It was interesting to say the least, but every time it did say something, it would always be followed up with that low, guttural growl, slowly getting louder. Now, one thing I should point out about the graveyard that I failed to mention earlier, there are solar stakes all around the graveyard, both in the new and old side. This place is pretty well maintained for being out in the middle of nowhere, but these lights were very bright. However, they were not bright for long. All of a sudden, the entire graveyard goes dark. All of the solar lights go off all at once, and all you could see was a single light on a stone, not new, not old, somewhere in between. The light caught my eye, and I looked over at it, and I could see a faint blue light hovering over the gravestone. Naturally curious about this light, I go slowly, walking over to the gravestone. The little light sinks into it. As I get closer, I could hear movement. My wife, my friend, and his wife, all behind me. This, to my right. I ignored it at first. Just a rabbit, maybe a deer. I got closer to the stone, and closer. The light of the stake in the ground slowly brightening my face. I almost got right up on the stone when the noise over to the side got louder. So I looked down to the right where I heard the sound, and in confusion I see two yellow eyes just barely off the ground. And at first I didn't think much. Must be a bobcat. At most, I'm about to get tore up by his claws. But it got so much worse as those two yellow eyes went from being so close to the ground to slowly going up to eye level with me, to being so much taller. And in the darkness, I could still make out its figure. It was slender, long legs, long arms, very long, sort of jagged-looking fingers. I could not tell what this thing was. All I know is I had to leave, for I thought I pissed off one of the Cherokee spirits. You see, in Cherokee lore, they say there's one spirit that's very territorial, and if you cross it, you better apologize, and you better leave the area immediately. It'll only give you so long before it takes its vengeance out on you. And while I'm trying to figure out this creature, which isn't even illuminated by the light nearby, I slowly back up into the darkness. I told my friend, we need to leave now. And I just slowly turned. And then I ran through the graveyard, apologizing to those whose graves I stepped on. I tell them, we need to leave the offering and we need to go, because this thing looks pissed. Now my friend, he's more versed in the Cherokee ways than I am. He's about full blood, knows how to say some of the language. So we leave our offering, and we start heading back to the car. Whatever it was slinked back into the bushes and disappeared. Me, my wife, and my friend and his wife, we get back to my car, and I noticed that the back of my car has a print on it. See, we were traveling down the dirt road, and that leaves a nice little film. But now it just had the long hand and fingers. Looks quite like the thing I just saw. So, we hopped into the car. We drove away as fast as we could. And we never went back. My wife made sure to salt us so that no spirits could attach. And we put salt in front of our door so no spirits could enter behind us. And I will tell you, it didn't work. But that is a story for next time.